I hope that Africa can take a note, and I hope that South Africa can take a note from the brave leadership that we've seen in the Sahel region of Africa. People like Captain Ibrahim Traore, Mr. Chiani in Niger, people who are fighting for true sovereignty.
Welcome to Ubuntu Alliance, the platform where we dive deep into the critical issues shaping Africa's present and future. Today, we're tackling a provocative question that opens the floor to some serious debates about power, sovereignty, and Africa's position in global politics. Let's set the stage. Jackson Hinkle, known for his outspoken views, recently stirred the pot with a bold claim. African nations should consider developing nuclear weapons to command respect and autonomy from global powers. His reasoning? Historically, nations like India, Pakistan, and even North Korea, though controversial, are treated with caution and deference, largely due to their nuclear capabilities. But is that the path Africa should take? Key leaders like Ibrahim Traore and others are already working tirelessly to reclaim true sovereignty for their nations. Could this be the next step? Or is it too high a gamble for a continent already grappling with poverty, corruption, and foreign interference? We want to hear your thoughts. Is building nuclear weapons a bold step toward global respect or a reckless gamble with Africa's future? Drop your opinions in the comments. Now, let's transition to hear directly from Jackson Hinkle himself. His insights spark a critical conversation about Africa's trajectory and the international dynamics at play. Stay tuned, listen carefully, and don't forget to keep questioning the world around you. If you find this conversation enlightening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's amplify Africa's voice and vision.
Well, the ambassador started off his comments by quoting Nelson Mandela, the famous quote, asked me by how many times I stood up after I fell. I'd like to quote one of my American comrades, the former President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who said, "I ask you to judge me by the enemies that I have made." When you look at Russia and you look at Africa, it's no part of their own doing, but the enemies that have been made in both Africa and Russia are enemies of humanity. It's the West, the collective West, and it's not the Western civilization, people like me, it's people who sit in the White House and who sit in the deep state, as we call it. Now, there may have been a change of guard in Washington, D.C. just past week, but there's not a change of heart, there's not a change of soul. If you look at the Secretary of State that was just selected, Marco Rubio, he is a neoconservative that wants to continue the subjugation of Africa, continue the subjugation and slavery of Latin America, and wants to continue the policies that have brought about so much of the misery, the sorrow, and the chaos that we have seen in Africa and Latin America and the whole global South for decades upon decades, far before I was ever born. I hope that Africa can take a note, and I hope that South Africa can take a note from the brave leadership that we've seen in the Sahel region of Africa. People like Captain Ibrahim Traore, Mr. Chiani in Niger, people who are fighting for true sovereignty. If I were to draw on the history of China and the history of Iran and Korea and Russia, there's one bottom line determining factor with all of them, and that's that before their revolutions, before they commanded respect, the situation in each one of those countries was not great, whether it was being indebted to Western banksters, whether it was a series of illegal coups or regime change operations or assassinations. These countries did not command respect on the global stage to the Western imperialists. That's the same problem that Africa is facing today. There is no respect that is commanded to the imperialists except for the new confederation in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And we've seen Russia come in and help secure the region against the U.S.-backed threats from Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups. But ultimately, I think that Africa needs to learn from China, from Korea, from Iran, and from Russia, who first had these beautiful revolutions that commanded the respect. Then they developed their militaries, they developed nuclear bombs, they developed all these sorts of things, and then they built their economies. We're sitting here and we're talking about being in the United Nations, having a rotating seat in the United Nations Security Council. We're talking about the economic plans of Africa in the future, new currencies, African Union. All of that doesn't mean a whole lot if the West is going to come in and trample all over you. What good is a seat at the United Nations if they're not going to listen to you? The United States has to listen to China. They have to listen to Russia because China and Russia have a bunch of nuclear bombs that are already pointed at every Western city. Now, of course, I support Africa having nuclear bombs. I understand we're far away from that, and maybe it's a bit controversial to say that. But what I think we also need to understand is that Africans are dealing with the same issues that the American citizens are dealing with under our own regime. Americans are dealing with fraudulent elections. We're dealing with censorship. We're dealing with the monopoly of land and private capital. And until Americans and Africans are able to command respect, then there really is no future for either of our peoples. Ultimately, to sum up, I want to bring in the point of Ukraine as well, because Ukraine did something very interesting recently. Zelensky realizes that the front line in Ukraine is collapsing. The Russians are moving in. So what did he do? He threatened the ability for Ukraine to be able to develop nuclear bombs. He said Ukraine can develop a nuclear bomb in several weeks. And then everyone got very worried about that. I think the West needs to get very worried about the potential for Africa to assert its own sovereignty and command respect in the same way that we're seeing in the new Confederation states, but all across Africa. And maybe it only starts with one or two nations, but that's exactly what we saw with Iran and Syria. And now look at the United States proxy of Israel. Israel's collapsing because they understand that the strength of Iran and the strength of Syria with the backing of Russia is, it's completely incomparable to the strength of Israel, who would undoubtedly lose in a conventional war against these nations and their proxies all across the region. So I think the question of military power is extremely important, and it actually comes before the question of economic power or trade routes or currencies or any of these things. So I hope to see more bold leadership. Even in the case of Niger, Victoria Nuland was too afraid to tell Nigeria to invade Niger because she understood the military power of these Sahel states with the backing of Russia. They wanted to do an ECOWAS invasion, and with the intervention of Russia and China and the military backing in the Sahel states, they understood in the United States that this was a no-go, that they couldn't do it. So I hope in my lifetime, I'll end here, that we'll see a nuclear Africa. We're already seeing Russia. Rosatom is talking about bringing nuclear reactors into Burkina Faso, but I hope one day it's nuclear bombs.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to like the video, comment, and share with your friends.